Hi, now we're going to look at a little practical application of where we're going to find this circle of fifths business and this 5-1 resolution. Okay, we have looked at chord movement so far from 5 to 1 and found the little gems in there that make that such a strong harmonic movement, the third of the 5 chord moving to the root, and if it's played as a dominant, the 5 chord, then the flat 7 resolves to the third. Okay, very strong movements. Now, another very common way that chords can move is just straight stepwise. So we're all very proficient now at C major. We know 4-part harmony all the way through the thing. So, for instance, an example of that might be, and you'll hear this in a million tunes, is you go up to the 4 chord, or let's go up to here this time, way in. So 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, or da, 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 da. These are just moving straight stepwise. Okay. Now, a gazillion tunes have that progression in them, in either a small part or a large part, and there will be a ton more tunes written that will use that progression. It has a very strong harmonic pull to it because the chords are moving right on the steps of the scale, and we knew that we should play F as a major 7th because that's diatonic, assuming we want to stay diatonic to the key, and then E as a minor 7th, D as a minor 7th, and C as a major 7th, G, C. Now, we looked at, again, the first harmonic movement was 5 to 1. And now, as I told you earlier on this circle of fifths business, a lot of times what happens is, in music, people don't always think about starting someplace and going to someplace. Now, that may sound strange because, but bear with me, you'll see what I mean. A lot of times they think of it the reverse. They think of arriving at someplace coming from somewhere else. So in other words, if I wanted to create the strongest harmonic movement there is, I wouldn't go to 5. I would think of it more as I want to come from 5 into 1. You see that little difference? There's a difference. Instead of going to 5, you're really thinking, I'm going to back up and come from 5. Okay. Now, what if you were on 5 and you wanted to apply the same idea? Well, then we would go up the 5th. We would go up a 5th from G up to D. Now we know D is a minor 7th, so we get D, G, C. Now you probably heard about this little cell of harmonic movement called a 2, 5, 1. And boy, this is everywhere in all kinds of music. It's universal pretty much to nearly every single type of music. 2, 5, 1. And it's very closely related to 4, 5, 1. Now remember we said that the pillars of the major tonality were the 1 chord, the 5 chord, and the 4 chord. Okay? Now the 4 chord can easily and often does move to the 5 chord and move to the 1. In fact, back to our old buddy Rameau, when he studied all those chord progressions, 5 going to 1, he did the same thing when he got to 5. He looked at where did you come from to get to 5? And guess what he found? He found that most often you arrived at 5 either by coming from 4 to 5 to 1, or from 2 to 5 to 1. Now, this is very, very interesting because there's only a very, very subtle difference in four-part harmony between the 4 and the 2 chord. Okay, let's look at the 2 chord played straight stacked thirds within 1 octave. Okay, here is D, and okay, so root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, minor 7th. Now, notice another way to view this is an F triad over a D bass. Okay, so the only difference in a way between a D minor 7th and an F major chord is the bass. In other words, this part, the triad, if you're viewing it from F, it's root 3rd, perfect 5th. If you're viewing it from the standpoint of D, it's minor 3rd, 5th, minor 7th. But that part of the chord, depending on what bass note you put under it, it'll sound like F or it'll sound like D. So D minor 7th to G is very, very similar to F, okay, to G, and resolving to the C. Okay, now let's look just a little bit about how that applies to the music that we're focusing on, flamenco. We're going to come back in the next session and we're going to see how that's just all over the place. We already know that. Now we'll know what it is.